Hey everyone. So, one of the things that is inherently problematic with the literal reading of Genesis that Young Earth Creationism advocates is that it necessarily implies that all of or most of the non aquatic life that we see on Earth today is the direct result of incest. Yeah. So, of course, we get the classic problem of where did Cain get his wife from? The question that you'll see sometimes asked. But I'm going to assume we can get even farther than that and get a few generations after that. Let's look at Noah's flood. God instructs Noah's family to take a male and female of all the unclean animals onto the ark. So, assuming a mortality rate of 0 on the entire voyage, which, as the YouTube user non-stamp collector recently pointed out, is problematic on its own, all these animals step off the boat after the waters recede. And if you've watched my previous video, you know I'm still waiting for a creationist answer as to where all that water went. But oh well. Anyway, these animals start breeding. The problem is that two animals cannot be the base of a breeding population for an entire species, or heck, even a kind, or Behrman, as creationists say, to get around the problem of space on the ark, as well as the very apparent microevolution that we can observe. Almost immediately, within the first and second generations, we run into huge genetic deficiencies because of the lack of sufficiently diverse genetic information, which would lead to extreme homozygosity. In other words, we get inbreeding problems. Lack of genetic diversity would suddenly lead to severe detrimental traits popping up left and right in the immediate descendants of the creatures Noah took on the ark. I mean, we'd be lucky if we can get these creatures to survive to the fourth or fifth generation, post-deluge. Yet creationists go even further and say that these stock generic kinds, and nobody has yet exactly defined what a kind is, but I'll probably do that in another video. It's a whole thing. Anyway, these stock genetic kinds diversified so much that they started to turn into different species and eventually led to the abundance of life that we see in the animal kingdom today. For example, creationist bear monology implies that the general pair of bears that Noah's family took on the boat had offspring that, from such limited potential genetic information, diversified into polar bears, black bears, grizzly bears, sun bears, pandas, as well as the extinct types of bears like the cave bear and the short-faced bear. I mean, it's insane. Let's look at it this way. Scientists can now look into the genetic history of animals, different species of animals, and see how large or small the populations were ages ago. So, I mean, for example, the cheetah. We know that the cheetah likely faced a population bottleneck at some point in its history because of the basically lack of diverse genetic information in their makeup. And that hasn't been a good thing for them. Cheetahs are especially vulnerable to certain diseases that, if they became sufficiently widespread in the cheetah population, could wipe them out completely, drive them to extinction because of their lack of sufficiently diverse genes. More relevant to us is how all the diversity we see in our own species could have arose from two people in the Garden of Eden, or, as my example, 8 people after the flood a few thousand years ago, without a similar loss of genetic information. I mean, how do we get around this creationist without employing magic or some other kind of miraculous intervention that would immediately remove all claims of legitimate science from the so-called scientific creationist movement? Because this is a really huge problem. Anyway, answer the questions by questioning the answers. I'm out. Take care, everyone.